Mordecai.
Mordecai Mulisa.
Mordecai Mulisa.
Ze Mordecai Mulisa. Ze Mordecai Mulisa.
I'm joined by Mordecai Mulisa.
It's been a pleasure having you around.
Becomes the second country or recipient in 1980.
Named after this gentleman.
Well, is it that what affects the majority in one way or the other will end up affecting the minority? Tonight. And usually many people ask me, why would you walk away from that? Why did you give it up? Mordecai, why would you do that? It's a question I've been asked more times than I can count. From friends, former colleagues, and even strangers who watched my career unfold. Look, many believed I was on the first track to the very top of Uganda's media landscape. And honestly, they weren't wrong. I loved my job. Look, to me, journalism wasn't just a career. It was a dream I had nurtured since childhood. I remember myself on the assemblies of Mutunre Church of Uganda Primary School, where I was encouraged by Mr. Elima Jackson to read news to the pupils of that school. I was a kid. And then I remember myself at London High School, Kaboa, encouraged by my high school teachers, Mr. Chimuli Patrick and Mr. Senkumba Issa, to anchor news to the students of the high school. So it was a dream that I had achieved. So every microphone I held, every story I told, every studio light I stood beneath reminded me that I was living what so many only hoped for. I had the immense privilege of working with some of Uganda's most respected media houses. I was given an opportunity by Mr. Ahmed Bogedema Sembe of 104.9 Ssuubi FM, Kampala, and then recommended me for my other job on 88.1 Ssuubi FM, Masaka, then Record Television Uganda, 97.7 Record FM, and ultimately at the NBS Television, under the flagship of one of Uganda's, national giant media houses or media conglomerate, Next Media Services. So it was quite a career. But then something really unexpected happened. In the midst of the headlines, breaking news, the live talk shows, and long hours in the newsroom, in the fields, a quiet but a persistent voice began to rise within me. At first, I brushed it off. I had deadlines to meet. Scripts to review, cameras to face.
Well, is it too early?
But the inner voice refused to be silenced. It grew louder and louder and stronger until I could not ignore it anymore. It was a calling to me to something more. If I were to ask you, what do you do when your spirit no longer finds peace in what once brought you so much joy? When your heart starts beating for a different purpose, one that can be scripted or broadcast in some situations. So it wasn't an easy choice. That's what I'm trying to say. In fact, it was terrifying. I wrestled with it for months. But eventually, I chose to walk away from the spotlight, the recognition, and the comfort of success or a successful career to pursue a conviction greater than fame and familiarity. And I haven't looked back really. Today, I walk in the new kind of freedom. One not bound by schedules or headlines, but guided by purpose and clarity. This is the story of my leap from the newsroom to a new calling. And I'll tell you my story now.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Live political commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
Very glad to be here on Mordecai Marissa TV.
Well, as I journeyed through my journalism career, I began to confront some unsettling truth. While my role was to report news, I wasn't allowed to participate in it. Not by sharing my personal views, not by standing up for what I believed was right. My responsibility was to deliver facts, not feelings, headlines, and not humanity. Now, at first, that seemed acceptable. But for someone who was raised in the depth of abject poverty, in the ghettos where injustices were part of our daily lives, remaining silent felt increasingly unbearable. I witnessed systematic oppression, theft, and unchecked state violation firsthand. And yet my profession demanded neutrality, even in the face of clear human rights violations. Over the years, I covered stories of journalists beaten in the line of duty, some of whom I knew personally. I attended countless press conferences organized by the Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda, HRNJ, headed by Robert Sempala, where year in, year out, reports consistently showed that security forces, especially the police, were the leading perpetrators of press freedom violations. And when I went back in the newsroom, I was expected to report these facts without context, without critique. Journalists who dared to question state brutality and express concern were branded activist journalists, a label used to discredit or silence us who want to include some sort of humanity in the stories we report. Questioning the actions of powerful figures, particularly those loyal to President Museveni, meant risking accusations of bias and unprofessionalism. That didn't sit well with me. And that was a daily routine. Now, then came 2020, a turning point, I call it. I'll never forget, while covering the general elections, I watched my friends and colleagues such as Daniel Lutaya, Josephine Namakumbi, Joseph Sabiti, and many others face state brutality.
The 28th day of December 2020, 3 days to call it a year. Good morning and welcome to NBS Sunrise. I am Mordecai Marissa, coming to you live from the Political Command Center. The National Unity Platform presidential candidate, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, has suspended his campaign schedule following the shooting of a journalist on his campaign trail. Ashraf Kasirye, an online Ghetto TV cameraman, NBS senior reporter Daniel Lutaya, and NTV journalist Ali Mivule were injured at Chabakuza Trading Center in outskirts of Masaka municipality. Police say Ashraf, who is currently admitted to Lubaga Hospital, is in critical condition and was hit by a tear gas canister. We have more details.
It all started at the residence of Masaka Municipality legislator Matthias Mpuga, where Kyagulanyi met with an entourage before hitting the trail. Here, police fired tear gas at journalists. 5 minutes later, Kyagulanyi set off for his campaign meetings in Bukoma, Simbi and in Mpigi districts. The road to the campaign venue was not any different from where he has campaigned before, as police blocked them again. At Chabakuza Trading Center in the outskirts of Masaka district, Kyagulanyi was blocked again and a scuffle ensued. Police fired tear gas to disperse Chagulanyi's supporters, and journalists were hit with tear gas canisters. Water TV crew member Ashraf Kasidia sustained blunt face injuries, according to police, on the left eye.
Protesters were killed in broad daylight, and still we were expected to simply report and remain detached. Meanwhile, in videos like minions of Museveni, one of them was Olaxis Isma, openly justified violence, and government figures like the late General Elitumwine spoke with disturbing pride about these facts. He was gloating and telling us that, they had a right to kill. And that was my breaking point. The killings, the impunity, the normalization of brutality. I could no longer be silent or a silent witness. Remaining in journalism under such constraints felt like complicity to me. I made a choice. If speaking out meant losing my career in mainstream media, so be it. And I remember at that time I recorded a video calling out Mr. Museveni. This was shortly after Olaxis Isma, the late, recorded a video warning Bobby Wine and Joel Senyonyi and Boston, gloating about what they had done to them. Injustices meted onto them. And I was like, this is wrong, Mr. President. You shouldn't be platforming these folks. You shouldn't be allowing them to even associate with you.
Before I start, I want you to look at this and then be able to know the direction where this conversation is going to take today.
Abo be mwakubye gulo mwakubye batono mubakube tujja kukuba Bobi Wine ojja kudde wakawo nga tolaba BBC tajja kujja gende nalufenya njagala baleme kuta bakone tiyagasa kuyingire otuke wabwana bo busubi ne kano kakazi akaina amannyo go kungulu akatuusi mbuno kagafu kale dikalinga ensonzi obo wonne kabutitire mwenna abayimbi epasi nkulaba tujja kugano yimba gwe epasi tujja kukona empi waikibenda tujja bakona empi mwenna ba puppet Batty Boys epasi waikibenda mwenna obuyimbi yimbi muli ba Batty Boy.
I know that threatens you. It disturbs you. You just can't believe what you just watched. In simple terms, it is the true definition of hate speech. Very heartbreaking video that is making trends on social media. It is very heartbreaking that the person saying whatever that is said is donning in a t-shirt that has the photo of the President of the Republic of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni.
But my message, by and large, landed on deaf ears. Yes, I had built a name. Yes, I was proud to see my face on the billboards across the city. Yes, I was living the dream of my younger self. But I realized that my calling was no longer to simply report history. It was to help change history. I mean, think about it. Since independence, Uganda has never had free and fair elections, I may say. Not even the peaceful transfer of power. And when I sat on TV or radio and tried to discuss the reason as why it's been the case over and over again, I would be called activist journalist. I had to just report. How about I try change history? That we need to see a peaceful transfer of power. That officials in government have to be held accountable. That it is my right to say what you don't have, what you don't like, and you have to defend my right. And that's the path I walk now.
Muhoozi Kainerugaba,
I know today is your birthday celebrations, but I won't attend. But let me tell you what I would whisper in your ears if I did and you came to hug me while welcoming me. I am a representation of millions of Ugandans who would wish to celebrate their birthdays like yours, but there's no room. The whole nation is in total doom and gloom as you smile for the smile in your life. Think about a mom and a dad with their children living in strife and tell me if there's any meaning in that kind of life. After this birthday celebration, may you deliver a message to your father and President of Uganda, whom you claim to have huge admiration for, is seated on a ticking bomb. How does he endorse your extravagant birthday celebration while the country is facing the worst ever inflation, the insecurity stretching all over the nation, our people living in fear for your men, state brutality, the worst forms of impunity have become the new security forces' identity, a healthcare crisis in every region, unemployment reducing our people to your mere beggars, whether they be educated or not. Let them be teachers, lawyers, doctors, journalists, farmers, to mention but a few. Mohozi and Mr. Museveni, look all over the country and you will see faces of poverty almost in all homesteads. See,
Power! Our power! People power! Our power! Our power! People power! Our power! People power! People power! Our power! Our power! People power!
In my studios in these United States of America, every morning I raise my voice against the injustices, hold folks accountable, and expose the lawlessness and the impunity in hopes that probably things will change for a better country. Now, to folks who are in power in Uganda, I'm a state enemy. Without having committed any crime, if I went back to Uganda, I would be abducted, I would be tortured, and probably be killed. And in the good old days, I just had to report. So therefore, all of you, invite you to join me in the pursuit of a free and just Uganda, liberated from fear, from silence, and the oppressive grip of a regime that has long outlived its mandate. I usually tell folks who ask me that, this is not just a career shift. To me, it is a calling. One I answer with unwavering conviction. And as I do this, I ask you to join me. I'm pretty convinced that there's so many Ugandans out there, especially folks in the media industry in Uganda, who would want to raise their voice, but they don't. I mean, take an example. If folks in the government commit crimes through impunity, hardly do journalists actually condemn because they're afraid of what might happen to them. Leading voices in Uganda, in the media industry, journalists, they all stay quiet. That is very sad. It should be heartbreaking that some things, some crimes are committed, that folks would be role models to the young generation in my country, afraid to speak out because of what might happen to them. I was in my 20s when I decided to make that decision, and I am proud of that. And if I die, I hope someone will pick up from where I'll have stopped and continue walking the journey of liberating the country we call home, Uganda. And this is my story.
Luta continua. A luta continua. Contra o quê?
Against what? Against what must the struggle continue?
Contra o tribalismo.
Against tribalism.
A luta continua.
We struggle
contra a ignorância.
Against ignorance.
Contra o analfabetismo.
Against illiteracy.
Contra a exploração do homem pelo homem.
Against exploitation.
Contra a superstição.
Against superstition.
Contra a miséria.
Against misery.
Contra a fome.
Against
contra
hunger.
o pé descalço.
Against lack of clothing.
A luta continua
The struggle continues
para que sejamos todos homens iguais.
so that someday we will all be equal.
Did you enjoy what you just watched?
I'm sure they did.
I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Marissa Live YouTube channel? Thank you.